Welcome to the Two Act Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Goth John. Who else am I speaking with?
Hi, I'm your other co-host, Adi.
All right, Adi. Are you ready for this one?
I'm not sure, but lead the way.
So I recommended we watch Hard Candy 2005, directed by David Slade. And Adi, what did you think of Hard Candy?
I don't know. Well, do you wanna give it a bit of an intro,
Sure.
and then
All right, and then we'll do that. All right.
just so that we don't blindside anyone that's curious about Hard Candy.
Hard Candy, a billion trigger warnings. Holy crap. So straight out of Dateline, a PDF file gets confronted with a young woman that ties him up and psychologically tortures him. That was a fun word. And this movie it's crazy. Show it to somebody and don't tell them anything about the movie. I think that's the best way to go into it. It had a budget under $1 million, and it grossed over $8 million, and it won a ton of awards. And you can really see why when you watch the film. So now, Adi, what did you think of Hard Candy?
This was, the best way, I completely agree, is to watch this film cold turkey. Don't read about it. Don't look it up. Just watch it. And it was one of the most uncomfortable watches in a while. I was quite impressed by how much of a claustrophobic, eerie thriller this film was. And, I think in many ways, the best way to describe it is, it's a revenge exploitation film. That's what it is. It's about a girl who is chatting online with a online predator, and when they first meet, you're kind of like, oh, like she's gonna totally get trapped, and she's so innocent, she's out of her mind, she's meek, she has no clue what she's doing. This guy's, he's charming, and next thing you know, the roles flip, and it makes for a really eerie, unhinged watch. Had me on the edge of my seat, but at the same time, it's kind of unbearable at moments.
Yeah, it's a hard watch, especially if you're an individual that had an essay experience, or somebody that has. It's definitely a hard watch. The film opens with a tense scene with no music. It's like straight AOL type deal, a chat between two people who we are led to believe is our main character and the PDF file.
Hello, how you keep saying PDF file.
I like it. It's the only way I can stomach to say it, because that's such a gross word, because the connotations with it. And this is definitely another one of those movies that I recommended, that I'm sure you were like, when you started watching, you're like, John, what the fuck did you just recommend to me? What are we watching?
Yeah. I definitely had the what the fuck card slamming right down on my desk. I was like, I at least the first 20 minutes, I was like, fuck, this shit could go in any direction, and it would not be an easy watch.
No good. It'd be torture. I like a lot of things about this movie, like the no real use of like music. It really makes you anxious. It makes you, they could have fucked this whole movie up just with putting music in it where that didn't need to be. A lot of the opening scenes are straight out of Catch a Predator, especially like before the other shoe drops. You're very antsy because this is a 14-year-old girl and this man is in his 30s. We've watched, at least I have, To Catch a Predator shows with Chris Hansen asking people to have a seat. And even watching that makes you feel anxious and makes your stomach, turn, and you want to throw up. But watching this movie, it gives kind of like the same effect. But then you find out that Haley, played by Elliot Page, before they changed their name and their gender, a girl who acts a lot older than she is. In fact, maybe that's some of the things that the 30-year-old man was interested in. But he there's a lot of good acting in this movie. What do you think about the portrayal of the PDF file or Elliot Page's performance?
I think the best thing about this film is the two central performances from Elliot Page and Patrick Wilson. They're both really great in their roles, and I think what I love about the film is that it, ultimately poses more questions than it answers questions. And you're looking at Patrick Wilson. He's just, when you first see him, like, okay, you kind of get an unsettled vibe with this whole encounter, because she, in the film, Haley clearly looks like a prepubescent girl, right, to an extent, or just entering puberty, I don't know. And he is a lot older, a lot closer to middle age. He's got this charming personality. He's buying her a t-shirt. He's kind of, being really suave, trying to really charm her and get her sensibilities. And then when you're later into the film where she starts torturing him, I really liked how muted he kept his true intentions until the very end. That was something that kept you on edge, a lot of it, because you're trying to gauge how guilty he is or not. Like at moments you're kind of wondering who to root for, and so much of like information is withheld, and that makes it harder to root for any character at times.
Honestly, I think there isn't a universe where I would have any sympathy for a groomer in a PDF file. I always root for the victim, because I want them to get the hell out of there. But in the scenario, she becomes the predator.
Yeah, she does. In the film, that turn is scary, because, she claims to be, a 14-year-old girl, but, what's to say that she's 30 or she just looks young? There's so much about her character that doesn't make sense, because, like, she's acting on self-gratification in a way that's similar to that guy, but it's not like in the sense of justice. But there is something about watching a predator get tortured and fucked up, and you just it's uncomfortable. You can't really see it and really understand why certain events in this film take place the way it does. But I really liked how claustrophobic the film was.
Yep.
And quite
all
clearly that was
the shots on their faces that don't pan down. Yeah. I liked that a lot too.
Because the thing is, there is an insane amount of close-ups, right, throughout the film, and it gets so tight that you can almost not breathe. And it's good because those close-ups really give you the best chance to introspect and see whether these characters are telling the truth or not. There's so many close-ups on Patrick Wilson's eyes, like every time his pupils would dilate or not. There's like sweat. You could see he was just like, pretending to be innocent, and then the change in his character towards the end, where he finally admits. I mean, all of that was great. I thought that it worked, that they had a limited budget and they chose to do it in this apartment setting. I felt like the lack of music, the color grading, a lot of that elevated the the tension in the film for me.
Yeah, I liked a lot of that as well. Yeah, Haley drugs Jeff. He wakes up tied up. What the hell? And then he's like sobering up, and he finds out like Haley's not playing around. It's not some like kink or anything. He's in danger. Haley is convinced there's some evidence for his crimes, and she won't give up until she finds out what she's looking for. You know, she finds a safe, and then she's just prodding him, trying to get the damn thing open. Oh, what is it? Your first girlfriend's like birthday, and eventually she figures out the combination, opens it up, and finds evidence. Finds pictures of girls, and that's really like when the movie like starts to go crazy, because the movie is already bonkers, bananas, nuts.
Up until she finds the safe, I think like there's a bit of a moral gray area with the characters where you can't really understand to what extent who's guilty, to what extent, because again it's look, you can tell Jeff is a questionable character. The fact that he's bringing a teenager in his home itself is a red flag, or even chatting up with the teenager is a red flag. But you don't know the extent of the evidence that he has until that moment. And I thought the flip that occurs once she encounters the safe was incredible. Like, she just goes completely, she's a different person. And I love that change in her character. It's so dark. It's so shifty, and I don't know. Like, they did a really good job with their performance playing that character. It's not an easy role to play.
Yeah, I think the dialogue is pretty good as well. Like, there's not a lot of things you can nitpick about this movie. Like, really, the only thing I can really nitpick is about the gunshot going off earlier in the movie. Why weren't the police like there within minutes? And then later a gunshot out the roof, but then you eventually hear the sirens. You're like, oh, okay. There's like a whole like struggle over a gun she finds. Like, there's so many. She's a smart girl. Why didn't she take the magazine out?
Yeah. There's certain things that suspension of disbelief can be hard, to fully like immerse in what's happening. Like, there's it gets to a point where it does feel a bit repetitive, where like he's constantly getting tied up, freed, and then again caught. And then you sort of thinking like, okay, like, she's meant to be a 14-year-old girl. Just how capable is she of like handling him, like handling a full-grown man?
And he had many opportunities where he could have escaped.
Oh yeah. I was expecting,
she mentioned
an escape.
Yeah, she was like, "You're not going to go anywhere." Yeah. And then she like knocks him out with plastic wrap. Like, that whole scene was like insane.
Oh yeah, I thought
like the struggle, dead. And you could, exactly, or because we watched another movie where that happened.
The guy died. That whole castration scene was just, oof. That was like,
it made me pucker up. That's for sure.
I was like, oh my god, like what on? And it's so scary, and the point in which he's literally going through the 7 stages of grief and denial, and you can see that he at one point towards the end, when she's so-called conducting this operation, he just gives up.
Yeah, he's like,
and that is terrifying.
Right. Yeah, I watched this movie originally when I was a teenager, and even like that scene still sticks in my mind from several years ago, from 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I'm just like thinking, I'm just like squirming just thinking about it. and like she convinces him that she's doing the operation because she numbs his testicles so he has no feeling. And then she has a video that she says she's recording in live time, so he thinks like she's doing the operation on him, and he's just like sweating bullets. And like you said, he goes through all the stages of greed. He's pleading, he's saying, I'll give you whatever you want, you can have all the money in the safe. And then like he's getting to the point where he's just defeated, he just accepts it all.
Yeah, yeah. But I gotta say that I was underwhelmed that the castration was fake and not real. I wanted
Okay.
it to be real.
It should have been real.
It should have been real.
His character deserved that for sure.
I don't understand why it wasn't real. Like, why
Right.
didn't she actually do it? That part
Well, because
I
he
didn't
probably
get.
would have died. That's probably why. And she didn't want to kill him. She wanted him to kill himself. It was more about torturing him than hurting him.
Right.
I think that's just because that's how like fucked the psyche of her is. There's also
Interesting.
another sad fact about this film. So Elliot Page wrote a memoir,
Yeah.
and in it, he mentioned that he was allegedly assaulted by one of the production members, and it's pretty sad and disgusting. And in fact, on top, like in any movie, sure, that's disgusting. But in fact, like just the themes and like the story of this film that happened on that film,
I know.
it's just over the top, and it's just gross.
It's fucking ironic, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
especially like I think like what's brave about this film is this story came in like what 2005. This was at a time where Me Too wasn't even a thing,
Didn't
and
exist.
a lot of exploitation openly, blatantly existed in Hollywood, and to some extent still does. I mean, we don't know, but it's sad to see that a film that, I mean, I'm just trying to think about it from the production point of it, because like Elliot Page claims that it was a person in the production team that assaulted him. I'm just trying to think, like, you're literally working in a film about sexual assault, about
grooming and
grooming,
predators,
pedophilia, and you're conducting an act like that in real life. Like,
right.
I don't know. It poses like more questions on the ethics,
Right.
more than it, like how ethical is it? I mean, it's hard. I just don't get it. But it's really unfortunate to read that. I was really surprised. I mean, shocked and surprised that it happened in this film, particularly because it specifically deals with that, with those issues. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't know how else to put it. It makes the film more uncomfortable to digest after knowing that something real happened in the making of that film that affected a person who was playing a role about concerning such topics. So yeah.
Another thing about this film that we mentioned was like the non-use of music. So Adi, if you had to guess how many minutes of music is in this film, if you had to guess.
All right, I don't need to guess because when I was researching it, I already knew. Yeah, well, I was, I do pay attention to the technical elements. So there's like some 9 minutes of music. A lot of it is just diegetic sounds and ambient sounds, which I think I agree. Like it's a sensitive film where if you try to add over the top music effects,
comedy music, you could have ruined this whole movie. It
completely.
Yeah.
It would have been cringe as fuck. And
Jump scares.
Oh fuck yeah. That would be the worst. If there was a jump scare in this film.
If this movie was made today, they would have a jump scare every 5 minutes.
Probably.
And there would be music in there. You would have like her like cutting off his balls to like Rihanna S&M. Like it would have been insane. Like,
well, I suppose there is one. I think there is one jump scare maybe where like he goes into the shower to like catch her.
Yeah, that's straight out
And
of
then-
Psycho, where he's stabbing the.
yeah. But that was all right. I mean, I wasn't blatantly bad.
It wasn't.
But a
loud
lot
alarm
of
clock.
what makes but a lot of what makes this film horrific is the sort of the questions it poses. Like of what's happening, to what extent these characters are like gone beyond the point of return, and to what extent they're gonna go.
Haley's definitely gonzo. She's probably doing that to a bunch of PDF files, and rightfully so, because I personally feel if you commit that crime, you just don't deserve to exist. There is no redemption. There is no. You can't. There's no. You're broken. There's. It's you take advantage of somebody that can't reciprocate any I'm circling around the drain right now, but yeah, it's apprehensible, I guess is the best word for it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. Even though like her portrayal can come across as villainous, probably is.
Yeah.
But considering that the character she's torturing is worse off as a person,
right?
It doesn't, it sort of in a way absolves her from being looked at in that way where she can be crossing a line. And I think a lot of it is the tension. That's why I say like the roles, the character dynamics being flipped make it really interesting. Because you're just left to wonder like, okay, this is not as straightforward. There's no character archetypes here.
No.
And you're trying to like figure out, all right, just how crazy is she and just how guilty is he?
Mm-hmm.
And everything that follows, I think, pretty much shows you to what extent that it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of them are really acting their hearts out.
Yep.
I liked a lot of the.
By the way, Patrick Wilson, I think he's always been underrated.
Okay.
I always.
Was he like in one of the
Conjuring?
Yeah, that's where I remember his face from.
Yeah, he plays the
Elliot Page
husband.
has been in like 100 billion thousand things. Juno.
Yeah,
when he was
well,
pregnant.
unfortunately, I think he was part of X-Men with Bryan Singer, and I think there was again like abuse from there.
Yeah.
That was again, it's really traumatic. I'm sure it's not easy to. I mean, I just think it's really unfortunate for a person to like go through an industry and then just be like exploited, and on top of that, you're having like you're trying to figure out who you are as a person, but at the same time you're going through abuse, and that just makes it really sad, in my opinion.
And you want to work. It's not like you could. This is before Me Too. It's not like you could say anything because it's the big powerful man versus you, and it's a he said she said thing, and there's no way that you're going to come out on top because they're just going to say, oh, they're delusional, they're crazy, they're insane, they don't know what they're talking about, they're just making up stories because they want to get me fired.
Yeah. But in terms of the performance, I do want to highlight like it's so layered. I really liked how slowly you could see both the characters uncovering each other as they progressed and as things got weirder. Like a lot of like how she like holds him accountable for certain things, like, how did you know that I liked a band, or I'm into this sort of music. I can't remember the exact name.
Line, yeah.
And then she catches him and she says, well, you clearly looked it up. And then he's like pretending not to be caught. And then he finally admits, and he's like, come on, like, haven't you tried to impress someone? And then like moments like that slowly, like, you could see her getting to him. I really enjoyed that whole process of like catching him and like really putting him on the spot. And it was things like that I noticed, which were really thrilling.
Yeah,
just from a character level.
Yep. Did you see him committing the heinous act of hanging himself? Did you see that coming?
At the very end.
Yeah. Did you see that coming? Like, there's a lot of like teasing about it. I didn't either. That's
no.
the thing.
No. I didn't think it would.
No, I thought
something else would happen.
Jail. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought either he gets caught and goes to jail,
right,
or she just ends up killing him intentionally or unintentionally.
Right. Well, through no remorse, it's hinted that she doesn't clean up after him. And lets his legacy. It's kind of
deserved, though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, he definitely is. Yeah, anybody that does that, their crime should be just out in the open.
Yeah. I did like moments of suspense. I felt like the only complaint I guess I had was it got a bit repetitive in the middle, where, like I said, kept getting caught, kept getting freed, kept getting caught.
Yeah, they had a weird game of Tom and Jerry, that's for sure.
Yeah, that bit I didn't. And then also, like I said, like, she's meant to be 14, and like, realistically, just how smart and capable is she that she can like hold him off and like tie him up and move him around?
I was a really fucking dumb 14-year-old.
which makes me question, like, what's to say that she's not actually 14?
Right. Well, she lied about everything else.
Exactly. Like, she at the end, for example, she doesn't clean up. And I think she mentions that there was another character that she tortured and killed, who claimed that it was him.
There was two people that watched somebody she knew get murdered, and the photographer said he was just there. He didn't even let me take any pictures. And then like right before he decides to hang himself, she's just like, oh yeah, before he died, he told me the truth. And he's like, oh. He like tries to give her this name of this guy. It's like, I'm kind of surprised he didn't try to give that name earlier, honestly. Especially through the castration scene.
Yeah. I mean, in that castration scene, I think like he tries to like tell a fake story to like get her to stop.
Oh yeah,
about his childhood.
In the tub with a 5-year-old when he's 10.
Yeah, and that was a perfect example of how psychopathic she is as a character, because she really is a psychopath. I mean, she may be acting in the sense of justice, but she doesn't feel emotions. She's clearly a psychopath, and that works in her favor to torture this guy, because someone else would not be able to. Like I said, morally, it's the great character. So not a normal person would rather rely on the police or on the justice system to enact, revenge or justice. But she is clearly, not a character. She's a vigilante. That's probably the best way you could describe her. Like, she's acting on her own accord, and the fact that she doesn't have, she can't be emotionally manipulated, or she can't feel sympathy or any of those emotions, works in her favor to like really torture Jeff and drive him to the point of suicide. Because a normal character, a normal girl or a boy or whatever, would at least show some hesitation or would struggle or would feel certain.
I think in a scenario where it was like a parent of a victim, they wouldn't have, because you're so gone.
It's trauma, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's still traumatic.
No, it is definitely very traumatic, and you're definitely messed up for life. Like for instance, like growing up when I was a kid, my mom said, "Hey, if anybody ever touched you, I'm going to jail. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it." And I'm like, "Yep, I understand."
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, when you have to react based on something horrific, everything's thrown out of the window. You know, there's no morals or principles. But in her case, you just don't know anything about her. Like even the conversations she has on phone, you don't know. Like, is she a government agent? Is she like
works for the FBI?
FBI, like special forces? Is this like the new secret agents taking down all the predators?
Good.
You just don't know.
Should. I'd be for it. I can get behind that program.
But yeah, I loved how the roles flipped, and because at the first 20 minutes, you think you're in for a very specific kind of movie that will be survival and gross, and there's plenty of movies like that where you know the creepy dude is clearly luring the girls in, and you can expect a survival sort of horror story. But I think the strongest suit is the characters, the writing of the characters, the way that information is withheld. A lot of it is, you know, gray, and even though, like, obviously, look, he's a predator, he deserves to be tortured and killed, but I liked how it wasn't as easily revealed. Like, they took their time with it, and I think that really worked in its favor of building tension and suspense.
No, I agree. Did you notice that Haley had a red hoodie on at the end of the movie? Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, apparently it was orange, and they made it red in post-production.
Oh, okay, all right.
But
well, that was kind of like that
red little hiding hood.
Yeah,
I got that reference. That. Yeah.
I was like,
that was good. That was good. Yeah,
it's cute. Just put that on the end there. You know, the big bad wolf, he got eaten up.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of characters you can see. I think there's like maybe you get to see
4,
3 or 4 at the start. You see a barista or shopkeeper, I don't know, and then you see the neighbor
that comes to
Sandra
the door.
Oh. Yeah, that scene was tense. I was like, oh, is she gonna intervene? And because like when they set her up when she's on top of the roof and Sandra Oh's character is gardening and sees that, I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting.
Did it rain?
Yeah,
she got caught in a lie.
That was such a that was just off the bat, wasn't it? I don't think she expected that.
No.
Even the babysitting thing was pretty, like, I don't know. It just came out of nowhere. It's just
I'm looking for a babysitter.
Yeah. And even after she says she's not into it or she can't because she's only there for a few days or whatever.
Right.
She still asks the same thing, like, oh, like, you know, I'm still looking.
She's got her own motivations. She's not interested in becoming a part of their wicked game.
No.
Which is good, because that would have definitely thrown a wrench into her plans, and it could have probably changed the ending of this movie. He probably
I don't know. I was fearing she getting involved, and I think that would have ruined Yeah, it would ruin the ending for sure, because
Mhm.
it's kind of like, you don't want another third character pop in and just
Right.
change the events when so much of the work is between Patrick Wilson's character and Elliot Page's character. So
Hmm.
it would be a disservice to the main story to do that. But I did like how clever they were. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but at the first scene where they meet at the cafe
Yeah.
coffee shop, yeah, there's a missing girls poster in the background.
Yeah. Yep. I did see that. In fact,
Did
I
you see
was
that?
like pausing that, like trying to like read it.
Yeah,
But then
I
it,
mean it
it
was,
kept going past it, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. I saw that. I knew what's going on.
and there was another note that said 4 out of 5 doctors think that I'm insane or something like that. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
I
noticed.
think Haley even said that in the movie. She said
Yeah,
the 4 out of 5
yeah.
doctors. Yeah.
So that's what makes it tough, because you don't know her backstory. You don't know.
Right. I'm rooting
You don't
for
know if
her the
something
whole
happened to
time.
her.
Yep.
Exactly. You don't know if something happened to her, or if she's.
Jeff's a groomer. I'm behind her all the way.
Yeah. Well, obviously that's just creepy, isn't it? I mean, that whole
He
scene
is
where.
like even the introduction, like from the first second you meet him, you're like, oh, this guy's a creeper. Like you kind of sometimes when you meet people, you can kind of like get that like that feeling. You're just like, I don't.
Yeah.
Something's off
And
with you.
that comes down to his performance. He
Hmm.
he acted really well, playing a character who's clearly putting on a facade,
Hmm.
and he's using his profession to be charming and to lure girls, and being a photographer kind of gives you. I mean, we've read about stories where fashion photographers exploit models.
Right.
Models are getting exploited a lot. Uh, we've read stories, so I definitely like that it was really rooted in reality, and
Mm.
as opposed to him having a regular job, that would have made it a bit different, I guess. I like the fact that he was a photographer, because it really worked. Like, that is evident. You can trace and link the
Mm.
crimes to that, and that's what she does when she interrogates him, and you know
Right.
tries to find.
Sick fuck like him would keep the evidence. Fucking
Exactly.
dumbass.
Yeah,
Look what's coming to you.
true. Apparently, I read that the film was made under 1 million, and the only way they could keep the film without changing the story was if the budget was under 1 million. I thought that was interesting, and that says a lot about again, Hollywood during that time, where they weren't warming up to stories like this, and in many ways, like, you're kind of like discouraging people from making stories that touch on these topics.
Oh,
What did you
because
think of that?
I liked it. I think it made the movie better. When directors and writers and people that make movies, when they're put under a budget, they're told, "Hey, you can't spend any more money after this." What ends up happening is they have to get creative. So, like in like a movie that has like practical effects, like they have to, and they can't afford the special effects, so they have to use something that in the end ends up looking a lot better because it doesn't get like outdated. But you go under budget, and then that gives them more money for to bring it around to festivals and stuff like that. In fact, this film won. I don't remember the names of the festivals, but it did win some festivals. It got nominated
Yeah,
for
it
a
did.
bunch.
It had a really good festival run. It won 3 awards at the Sitges Film Festival.
I was gonna let
Uh,
you try to pronounce that. I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna get that."
yeah, it's in Spain, and
Okay.
it also won awards at Malaga Film Festival,
Mhm.
uh, and it was also awarded Overlooked Film of the Year at the 2006 Phoenix Film Critics Society Awards, and Paige won Best Actress at the Austin Film Critics Association Awards. So, critically, it was well received, and I think that was probably its best bet during that time because, studios are not gonna market this film.
No, it's
to
not
be a
Avengers
blockbuster.
52. It's
No, and it's kind of hard because families are not gonna. This is not a
No.
family film.
No.
They're not gonna.
this is
Families
a
are not gonna
hard
go
R.
watch this. Exactly. So, your best bet is to put it in film festivals, and I think that's interesting because this is not a. I don't know if this doesn't come across as a. It's not a studio film. It's quite an indie film.
It was produced by Lionsgate, but that's really where the studios end. They did the slapped it on a DVD and sent it out to theaters. I'm not sure if did it run in theaters. I can't imagine.
It did. It made it made 8 million.
Oh yeah, and then it made a bunch international. That's right.
Yeah. Which is not bad. 8 million on a budget of 950,000.
You go up 6, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
Double
pretty
budget.
decent achievement. It's a thriller. I just wish that there was more plot in the middle.
Okay.
That's
I
I think that kind of hinders it for me.
All right.
And I can also see that it's limited to its scale.
Right.
It's working in one location for the most part, and that's challenging. It's not easy to film an 1 hour 40-minute film in one location. That's hard to pull off.
Yeah, I don't think at least I didn't really feel like it was poorly paced by any means.
No, it wasn't poorly paced. The pacing was.
You blink and the hour and 40's gone.
Yeah.
Because you're fixated on the screen. Like, this is not something I would ever even imagine being distracted watching. Just because I'm so captivated by Paige's performance and seeing if Wilson's going to get away with it.
Yeah, you hope not. It's interesting. I was reading about even that's why they try to elevate the story through the lack of music and the color grading, the direction, and of course, like so many close-up shots, right? That just made it more and more claustrophobic. I think it made it too claustrophobic. I'd appreciate it if it had a few like wider shots in there, at least for the master. But it derives it gets the effect that it's going for.
I agree.
I don't think I can't fault it technically for being poor. I think it works under its restrictions of its budget.
I agree. Do you have anything else to mention, or are you ready to go into ratings?
I think I'm good. I can go to ratings. Yeah.
All right. I'll start because my rec. Okay. Like I said, I like the pacing in this film. Some of the best color correction I've ever seen in a film. It really makes you feel, like you said, claustrophobic. Makes you feel gross watching it. And that's a good thing. Hard Candy is a masterclass in storytelling, great acting, and great script writing. This is one of my far and fews. I rewatched this movie. I originally watched this sometime in high school, so almost 20 years ago. So I'm gonna give this one a 10 out of 10. I was leaning on a 9, but I was like, you know what? Fuck it. He killed himself. We'll give it a 10 out of 10. Adi, what did you think?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with everything you said. Technically, it's an achievement. Performances for me is the best part in this film. That's what I like the most. Both the actors were really phenomenal. and that for me carries it a lot. I'm gonna settle for a 8 out of 10. I think
Okay.
I like the film. Of course, it's a really interesting watch because uh, both the characters are crazy, but clearly the character that deserves to die ends up dying, and that was satisfying to watch. Um, and I just feel like in the middle, I wish there was more plot. Like I said, I just think that it kind of got repetitive a bit. But apart from that, the direction, uh, the performances were a highlight for me, and also the screenplay. Because it's let me tell you, it's not easy to write a story with just two characters for that long. So
Mhm.
within its restrictions, I think it's a good film
Mhm.
for what it's for the message it's trying to send across, and it sends a lot of questions on morality and ethics and characterization. Um, so for that reason, I think the best thing about this film is that it leaves you with a discourse to think about, and it leaves you with more questions than answers. And I think that's what a film should do.
All right. Well said. Have you decided on a recommendation for next time?
Okay, yeah, sure. So for the next film, lift the spirits up a bit. From something dark, we'll go to a comedy, black comedy, written and directed by Boots Riley. This film is called Sorry to Bother You, and it was released in 2018. It's about a telemarketer named Cassius Green who discovers an alluring method towards success. However, owing to his greed, he ends up fading away from his family and friends. That's just the loose synopsis without going too much into details. So it stars Stephen Yeun, Lakeith Stanfield, Tessa Thompson, Terry Crews, and Armie Hammer. It's funny. So yeah, I guess we'll look forward to that episode. And unless you got any final thoughts?
Nope. See you, Space Cowboy.